Greetings, good day, and welcome to day 2 of GatherVerse AI Summit 2025. We have a little bit of time to unpack a lot. We're thankful for everybody that's come to be able to join with us in GatherVerse.live for this very special day 2 and a very important summit. We're coming off the heels of a very and rather dramatic GatherVerse Day 1. There was so much that was expressed yesterday by so many different voices of expression from around the world. There was a lot said, and there was a lot gained. We especially want to extend our thanks and gratitude for those that are meeting at different various broadcast platforms that we stream to. We know that many of you are watching from your offices, from your home offices, with friends, with colleagues, and with the little ones, and with family. We greet all of you as well. We are at the intersection of humanity and emerging technologies. This is where GatherVerse meets. With the real perspectives and a clear agenda of understanding the importance of accessibility and education, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, and ethics, compassion and care. We must take the time now to consider where we might be headed when it comes to the hyperscale and accelerated fashion of artificial intelligence as we know it. As much as we like to talk about the opportunities and the benefits which we expressly have and often do when it comes to GatherVerse, and particularly on the subject of AI, I cannot and will not paint the honey cake future and the small bunny rabbit narrative of artificial intelligence. Is it a revenue driver? Yes, it is. Does it drive capital? Yes, it does. Does it drive wealth opportunity? Extraordinarily so. Is it one of the most remarkable technologies we've ever seen? Yes. Does it supersede the capacity of the human mind? No. Will it ever replace the human code? No. Can it replace the heart and minds of women and men? Absolutely not. But yet, we do see that there are many in this world now that have adopted artificial intelligence, that use artificial intelligence more than the given creative capacity that they've had since birth, using it in place of their own mind. Some without the consideration and the actual narrative of realizing that in many ways, when we talked about dramatically, and even before the AI boom, about ethical governance structures, with the real consideration that when we're dealing with artificial intelligence today, there is a substantial and a significant amount of what's rendered at inference that is misrepresented, that's misinformation, and it's being weaponized more so than we've ever seen content weaponized for misguided direction and disinformation. We had a consideration and concern years ago, many have, about the threat of the ecosystem of information itself. That has now come to pass. It's not to say that misinformation and disinformation and the threat of ecosystem of information already existed or did not exist before AI boom. It did. It has. But that threat has been hyperscaled and taken consideration of actual ground truth, which it is not. Many of the regulatory establishments of the considerations here in the United States have been deregulated. Whatever so-called safety protocols and parameters that surrounded these capable models have been reduced and minimized to manifestos and frameworks, of which many will never see the light of day, with the real consideration of protecting us, our future, our children. Some of the very biggest and most powerful companies in the world, here in Silicon Valley and elsewhere, will go unregulated. They are building at a hyper and dramatic scale when it comes not only to large language foundational models and small models and larger and expansive context windows, so many other different diffusion models and other different types of AI that's being developed out there, extended chain of thought reasoning. There have been some teams that have been wholeheartedly dedicated to mechanistic interpretability and understanding empirical scale laws, test time compute. And what does that look like? What does it look like in the scientific theater, in the medical theater, in the narrative? However, as we look at the opportunity of AI producing and giving great opportunities for well-being and health and life, we also have to look at the other side of the war theater and the effort at defensive attack and surveillance, the lack of cybersecurity, the lack of understanding how this technology will not only stay on screens that we type to with rendered inference, but the reality is that we'll be communicating, because yes, we understand that computer vision and multimodal and capacity of concatenative synthesis and parametric synthesis and our ability and capability to be able to speak to our models and our models speaking back to us, but with the real concern that our models, these family of models that we interact with, will have visibility and specific caricature, will hold relationships. Can you imagine that one day you come to dinner with a group of friends and on your iPad is a virtual, animated, hyper-realistic, immersive simulated, human eye, resolution standard avatar that's indiscernible to the human eyes as whether it is real or not, but this is your partner, your companion. That is part of the reality that we look at. Are we prepared for this? Emotionally, tangibly? Do we also understand and realize that there is no protocol and standard set universally when it comes to universal basic income and universal basic services? I'm seeing here in Silicon Valley people getting fired left and right. I've seen more green signs circled around LinkedIn with people not being able to have work that are quite capable professionals that have enjoyed work for so long, and those jobs are never coming back. People often talk about, let's only talk about the good things of AI and not the existential risk. I can't do that. I won't do that. I will not paint the picture of the honey cake for you. The reality is that there is incredible and extraordinary, remarkable opportunity for the scale of AI. But at the same time, and in the self-same breath, we find ourselves at a time of peril. It's less about the technology and more about the men and women that wield it. The majority of AI is male-centric developed. We have a women's health summit next month. My real concern is that AI is integrating itself into the medical theater with the majority of it being developed and produced by men when it comes to women's health. We will be assisted and in some ways governed and guided by artificial intelligence that's made in homogeneity. This is not the way. We need more startups. We need more communities. We need more women-funded startups, community of color-funded startups, culturally funded startups, Black, white, everything in between and everything around. We need more greater contribution. And what we don't want to find ourselves is subject to a monopoly of major large corporations with few options for the magnitude of compute usage when it comes to artificial intelligence itself. This is not the way. The way forward is the way together. where every person who has the willing and desire, no matter where they're from, transmetropolitan, transcontinental, has the opportunity to innovate, build, hack, make, code, develop, and to be able to contribute to the overall narrative of the extension of reality of artificial intelligence. So many people I know that have been laid off that don't look like me, that don't come from where I come from, and those that do, they're not getting those jobs back. What will they do? Where will they go? There is no plan B. That's real. AI, as we know it today, will be dramatically different this time next year. Fundamentally different this time next year. You think you understand what artificial intelligence is? We've barely begun. And there's no protections for you. If there was ever a time for us to assemble together and have these discussions and to meet at the intersection of artificial intelligence and humanity, it's now. It's in places like GatherVerse. But I'm looking for the leader in you. When will you champion the opportunity to be able to speak for what is right? For greater safety parameters and barriers. There's so many organizations, incredible ones, that were affiliated with AI for Human Flourishing. And so many other different platforms that are available for you to join. But I'm looking for the leader in you, not just to join, but to build and extend community and human centricity to build what is right for what is next. How many more opportunities do you think we're afforded to be able to assemble together in global community to share on these things before these things come to pass? We are in the hyperscale area, ladies and gentlemen, and things are moving faster than we've ever known. What will you do with the time that is given to innovate? The disruption of the very fabric and the material of society as we know it, and civilization and the business ingenuity is changing right before our eyes, ever changing. But what will the future be for our children, for our youth? Will we tell them that we stood by and did nothing and only thought of ourselves? Or did we take advantage of the opportunity that was given? We have an incredible, extraordinary day 2 here at GatherVerse AI Summit. We're about to introduce our first roundtable discussion, AI for Global Betterment, leveraging technology for humanitarian efforts. We have an extraordinary group of individuals who come to give their heart, and that's what we expect, nothing less and nothing more. Share this with someone, take your screenshots, rally with us, be with us. We're with you. You are not alone, not in this endeavor. We build together, we build strong. May our gather be well.
Hello, and greetings. Kindly mute your mic if your mic is unmuted. Kindly mute it.
Yeah. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, kindly unmute so that we may get started. All right. That was such an incredible, powerful introduction for GatherVerse Summit 2025, AI Summit 2025, Day 2. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you for addressing those concerns. And I believe all of these roundtables that we're going to talk about today are going to address such concerns. With me, I have an extraordinary panel, just like Christopher had mentioned. And we're going to talk about AI for global betterment, leveraging technology for humanitarian efforts. Our dear audience, I ask you feel free to interact with our panelists during this discussion. And as for our panelists, it's time to introduce yourself. And I ask you to be very, very brief because I believe we have a lot to unpack here. And I will start with you, Richard, passing it all the way, and then we will conclude the introductions with Anne. Richard, Indigo.
Okay, hi everyone. It's so nice to be here. Thank you, Chris, for that amazing section. My name is Richard Udele, and I'm the director of My Venture Capital, and I'm also an AI engineer. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. We welcome you. Asha Ona, we're over to you.
Hi, hi, yes, my name is Shauna Adams. I'm the founder and chief AI strategist at the Muse of AI, and we offer business solutions, nonprofit work to help with our global betterment.
Wow, you're in the right place. You're welcome. Melvin, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Melvin Anderson, CEO of Explore Skills. We are a software company that designs AI-driven career discovery tools for K through 12.
Thank you for coming. Paula,
Good morning, everyone. I'm with Paula Bowens with Disruptor DAO, a core team member, and we are a women-led organization committed to disturbing wealth. Our mission is to accelerate wealth building opportunities by strengthening our mindset, advancing education, and investing in disruptive technology.
you're welcome. Shout out to Disruptor DAO. Jemima, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So, I'm Director of Artificial Intelligence. We are providing AI copilots, chatbots, and AI agents to enterprises and business. And I have 13 years in AI and data science and machine learning part.
Thank you. You're welcome. Lynn, your mic is muted. Kindly unmute.
Hello, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you. My name is Ling Rabat. I'm a former aerospace engineer turned spiritual guide. And my work with AI is primarily in the whole marketing and understanding people, but the unique vision is how I and we can connect to it from a higher consciousness, from like a fifth dimensional consciousness where it really is working with us in a very, very deep way.
Wow, we look forward to learn about that. Anne, over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Anne Marie, and I'm the founder of Cybershiro Inc., which is a digital literacy platform for K through 12 all the way to end of college. And then I'm also a SOC lead at Malwarebytes, and I'm excited to be here and to hear from all of you.
Wow, we're also happy to have you here. Chris,
Hello. Was that a rooster? Anyway, hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Chris. I work as the Transition Age Youth Coordinator for On Our Own of Maryland, and I support and pay young adults to be in the places that they need to be. So I'm kind of the outlier here. Hello. I use AI in my professional and personal life to enhance the experience of the young adults in the transition age youth organizations that I work with. So I'm happy to be here.
happy to have you too. And my name is Lingetao, Communications Director for GatherVerse. And I believe it's time. Dear panelists, shall we get started? All right. I'm going to start with you, Richard, and anyone can chime in on this. What role could AI play in anticipating and addressing global humanitarian crises before they escalate?
All right, thank you, Lynn. First of all, I would like to make you understand that this AI we've been talking about does not really have any power unless it has a very rich data. So once AI does not have any data to train on, it's useless. So it's essential for AI to, analyze vast data sets from probably satellite imagery, social media, it could be from even historical records to predict crises such as, famine, disease, outbreak, or displacements due to conflict. So, for example, like there are AI-driven models used in the UN World Food Program, which predicts food shortage in months. So this helps even the organization to prepare ahead for any food shortage that is going to come in the future, and also allow them to do the necessary interventions. And also, AI powered warning systems can also help these NGOs and governments before crisis escalates. But everything boils down to getting the right data. Once the right data is gotten, that is the foundation to build every other thing. So that's my to take on how we can address those crises.
Wow, that's a very, very good example that you have given there. And Jemima, I see you agreeing to that. Do you want to chime in on it?
Yes. So, adding to the point of Richard, AI can be used and addressed for some natural disaster forecasting. There are NGOs and governments reaching us to process the climate data and satellite images
Mm,
to
mm,
predict the hurricanes, earthquakes, and floods with great accuracy. So, always there is an option. We can use AI for the good cause, like analyzing for an political unrest, can be a conflict prediction, can be a social tension or economic indicators. So like that we
mm,
can make the news sentiments to identify the early warning sign of a violence also. So
mm,
in such predictions, such anticipations can be made by AI,
mm.
which be less biased also. So you can depend on the, if you have a high quality data, it can be
Yes.
predict in the
Mm,
very right way, so that will
mm,
help human to uh, uh, I mean, save themselves from those calamities and other things
mm.
as well.
Yeah.
That is very powerful. Okay, Shauna, please go.
Yes, and the common thread with all of that we need to make sure that we as advocates of AI make sure that are in place is that we have systems and processes of the humans who are inputting the data and who
Mm,
are receiving and reading the data. The human input is what helps to make sure that biases aren't in place, that there is oversight for transparency as well. I love AI and I love its transformational power and its ability to really change our world in a positive way. But what's important, like all of us that are gathered here today, as those who are watching, is that we make sure the human aspect is not left out. And one of the things, like I advocate through my company, is making sure that people understand how to use AI well. I feel like the use of AI well is going to be the 21st century's literacy test. And so it's important upon us when we talk about how it can change humanitarian work. Not only does that humanitarian work include famine and feeding and medical care and um, ways to analyze and predict and prevent conflict, but that we also are making sure on a humanitarian level that we teach the skill of using AI well, so that there's always skilled people who are making those human inputs.
Thank you for adding that. Does anyone else want to chime in on this? Okay, Lynn, please chime in.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm always going to bring it back to the human and the inner work. And so, for example, I've created amazing meditations for other people with AI, with putting them input exactly what I wanted. And so, I mean, I really truly believe there's certain humanitarian, like global things that are going to be happening within the weather that are always going to create crisis. But when we're talking about wars and stuff, we should be using AI to change the people instead of anticipating events that we don't want to happen. Because that's what we need to remember about this new world is we've spent most of our lives focusing on futures and out there and what we don't want. And what happens? What are we seeing happening right now? A lot of what we don't want. So the invitation now is to pull it back in and transform the self. And AI can actually have amazing tools for that in terms of creating very specific guided meditations, very specific things for specific people that might not generally be open to what we might call healing. But what I call healing is evolution, right? And so technology is evolving, and unfortunately, technology is evolving faster than humans. So until the humans are ready to take action and focus on them, I think that's when we're going to start to see the change, because we need the people. Humans have so much subconscious bias. Even people that think a certain way, that's the mind. The body has a whole different score of programs that it is taking sometimes generations to unwind. But with these advanced healing technologies that I'm working with, and I know a lot of other people on the planet are working with, and some of these people that are out of jobs because of AI are probably going to be destined to be working with too, we have this way where the body can catch up with the mind. And I'm speaking right now from a point of view, I'm on a 6-day water fast. I haven't had any food in 6 days. So I really hope what I'm saying is like resonating as maybe a little bit uncomfortable to hear, like, oh, I am spending all this time out here. Like maybe I do want to do this a little bit different, so that the ancient technologies and the technologies of AI can grow together, and then we can use it. There's always going to be emergencies. There's always going to be things happening on the planet. But right now, most of our emergencies are caused by other humans. And so the only people that can save us are
hold
others.
that thought, Lynn. I want you to hold that thought. I can listen to you the whole day because it's very, very resonating when you're talking about the inner work, the spiritual work. Because at the end of the day, how do we create AI systems if us ourselves we're not okay? So if we create AI systems with our incomplete selves or unhealed selves, the ability for us to predict, and also the ability for us to adapt, and the ability for us to cope with disasters, because at the end of the day, I believe disasters have to happen, whether we like it or not. It's a terrible thing to hear, but disasters happen in this kind of world that we live in. And this draws me to where I'm diving more into collaboration, and I'm bringing this to you, Melvin. How can AI systems enhance real-time collaboration between humanitarian organizations worldwide? You're muted. Kindly unmute. Kindly unmute.
First and foremost, we consider humanitarian crisis education. That's what we're concentrated on, K through 12. So when you're talking about collaboration, we choose, as Lynn was talking, to work with individuals to create the AI solutions and create the awareness and create solutions that will recognize the bias. So we choose to deal with individuals who have a clean slate. We would rather begin with the individuals who create solutions, AI solutions, in addition to getting with individuals who have a solutions and how do we deploy this to humanitarian organizations. So our model is a little bit different, but we choose to work with those individuals on a global scale. For example, with our esports league, we're using that to bring the students in and then introduce AI and cybersecurity. Well, now we get an opportunity to talk to them about what bias looks like, because again, they're coming in with a clean slate, but we use the esports to attract them. So the collaboration comes into play to where we've already reached out to individuals in Johannesburg to partner in this endeavor. So collaboration with AI is extremely important, number one, and extremely, I wouldn't say simple, but it scales your solution. It scales your solution to be able to not only partner in 1 or 2 countries, but on a global scale. That's what we love about it. So the collaboration piece between the organizations, and we consider education as an organization, is profound for us, because as Christopher was saying at the beginning, the ability to create so many solutions with AI, be disruptive. That's what we push when we talk to our kids. Be disruptive, knock over the table, turn everything over, and let's start with what you believe in. And it begins, as Lynn was saying, we keep going back to that. First, we have to make them realize they have the power to create anything they want to create. We also have the power to let them know, I will hand this off to you. I'm depending on you to take this to the next level. I will step back and just mentor you in taking it to the next level. And when you talk to them like that, you see them light up because they've been told their entire lives that they cannot do anything. And I get so excited. It's like, oh my God, if I can put AI in the hands of some kid in Chicago who's never even touched AI and start to begin to inspire that individual, can you imagine the solutions that come out, not only on a global scale, but for the community, for his community, for every other community? So kind of getting off what you were saying, but using the collaboration tool of AI for us on the education side is profound. And there are a lot of tools in place, but I'm excited about what's coming tomorrow.
Wow, that is very profound, and thanks for that example. And please chime in, Paula.
I just want to add to that, because that's awesome. It's also about just having the real-time communications on a global level, especially when you're doing in terms of business. AI can really coordinate the communication in real life. If you're in a disaster moment in the global level, or if you're doing some type of business and so like suggestion of supplier diversity or supplier, in which times you need some type of communication where if something's going wrong on one end, people know on the other end. So AI really brings that collaboration together in terms of just real life communication. I just want to add on to that.
That is very, very profound. And Indigo.
Yeah, thank you. So to add to Melvin's, collaboration piece, I think what we are forgetting to mention is that AI as well is pretty much a disruptor, but also we have to humanize it, because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are using it. So like you mentioned, taking it to a child who's never used a computer or collaborating with all these people, it depends on the end person who uses the technology. So we could have, all these tools, we could have all these predictors, we could have all these things happening, but what are they doing with the tools? I'm pretty sure AI came out and said, hey, DEI is really great for what we're doing. Companies are making money. But then what happened? It's still being rolled back. And so I think when we think about how to use AI, we have to also think about what is the end result of the person who's using it? What do they want to do with it? Do we need to educate them to make sure that, hey, you don't always have to think about having all this power within your hands, but also distribute it? If it's in a humanitarian or disaster zone, we have so much data. So for example, while I was doing my studies, we had so much data on sub-Saharan Africa, but there wasn't enough data on North America in terms of digital literacy or education or things like that. So we have so much data that's being fed to the AI, but nothing's really being done with it. So I think that we need to pay more attention to what we're using the AI for, and also see actionable results along with the collaboration.
Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned, the clean slate, that is exactly for the clean slate, is to do that prep work. So yeah, that's first and foremost in any situation when you're going into the certain environments, is that you have the ability to set the groundwork, teach the humanitarian side, and really work with them to understand how it affects that individual and it affects their community and other communities. So you're exactly right on that one. And that's why that clean slate comes into play.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Melvin. And when I listen to all of you, I think I come to a conclusion whereby I see the importance of us gathering here. And I remember something that Christopher mentioned, very, very important, where he said, a summit like this or leaders like us, our main action is to be more concerned about the humans and the users more than the machines. And I think the AI Summit 2025 sums it up. We are all about humanity, the education, the care, the spirituality of human beings, and addressing every concern that needs to be addressed. And this brings me to another concern that is very, very critical. We've talked about predicting. yes, we can predict. How about now the real time help? Can AI solve that? And when I talk about that, I mean in terms of resources. What innovation in AI could redefine how resources are allocated in disaster zones? Because I believe that is very, very important. Predicting a disaster without having the resources to solve it, that is catastrophic even than having the disaster itself. So I believe it's very, very important to have the resources. And I'm going to address these to you, Shauna and Chris.
Well, thank you. It was so funny you were saying that because in my mind I was thinking I'm definitely one who can answer this because I live in Florida and I live in the area where we got three back-to-back hurricanes that were Cat 2 or above. And so I also saw firsthand the distribution and the recovery effort out afterwards. And so, how it can be used at that level, I would say, is having great data first, right? We've already talked about, that's the foundation, making sure you have good data, but being able to schedule and allocate resources as they are really needed based upon a series of variables: population density, transportation availability or not, being able to take the data of even people reporting their disasters to, let's say, FEMA, but I know we're talking about on a global level, but having an infrastructure for even the reporting, which could be built and supported with AI, being able to translate as we talk about on the global scale. So no matter your language, you'll be able to be heard and helped. And then using that data to strategically distribute resources. Also may even have the ability to address issues where there isn't necessarily communication and data, but by the use of satellites and drones. And again, the data being able to identify this was a population area, so we need to get resources there, regardless of whether there's been reporting or not. So the ability to be able to streamline, meet people where they are. That's what I really love about AI, is that its ability to meet people where they are. Like Melvin was talking about with the kid who's never used AI before. I work with kids and adults. And it is such a pleasure to see that light bulb go off because you can meet people where they are. So that's where I see its power in being able to cut down on waste, streamline and strategically get resources to the people when they need it as soon as possible.
That is very, very insightful. I totally agree with that. Meeting people at where they are, but with it comes with the issue of infrastructure. Meeting people where they are, I think there's need for accessibility. I think that dream can come true if there's a lot of accessibility for AI. Chris, do you want to add something to that, or anyone who just want to chime in on that, or add to what just Shauna just said? Chris, kindly. Then Lynn.
Sure. Thank you so much. Hi. I, as a young person and a person who works with young people, I would say that our generation is very concerned about natural disasters, and we don't really understand a lot of it. And we just know that things need to happen, and we are in the streets. We are rallying, and we are doing everything we can. But I think, to tie back in what we were talking about earlier, I think there's a dramatic lack of education about what natural disasters are, how to deal with them, and how to prepare, and also how to build after and find those resources after. I think a lot about how, in this home that I'm in, which was my first home I've ever had, there was all of these winterizing things that I need to do to prepare the home that I never knew about, that I actually asked AI how to winterize a home in Maryland. And I was very specific. And I think that's the beauty of AI, is that you can be as specific as possible. I went down to my area And I think when we're thinking about the future and of natural disasters, using it for that education, but also maybe using it as a way to keep folks up to date about what's going on. I think using AI maybe as almost like a news service could be very helpful for folks, as a lot of people around the world do not have access to the media and knowing what is going on. And so I think there could be a lot of benefit there if we are able to educate people on what's coming, how to prepare, and also a way to connect them with other folks who excuse me, where they can support each other and also find supportive resources. Thanks.
Very powerful. Lynn, can you chime in?
I'm excited about this one. So last time I talked about inner work, this is where we can go with the outer. So what I'm seeing are large we've already determined where we're likely to have disasters. So we have large warehouses there all over the world that are already stocked with food, with camp stoves, with waters, with propane. And then when the disaster hits, the drones that are with the building, because they have their own hangars, are able to, the AI is in there packing up the pallets, and then the drones can drop the pallets exactly where they're needed within, so we can put in the data, this neighborhood was hit hardest, this here. It can all be done without any human intervention. I mean, all that technology is already there. I've seen videos of warehouses where the AI is just going around and like picking up all the things. So I think using AI, I mean, I know that's in the future, but the technology is already there. We just have to decide that we want to put our resources into building that sort of infrastructure. But that's where I see us going, having these warehouses, storages of food and water planted all over the place. And then with a snap of the finger, the AI drones, the robots go to action, and there's no deployment necessary. No one has to leave their family. No one has to do anything unless they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to follow up really quickly with the other thing, and that ties into what Lynn was saying. As someone, again, with those hurricanes, speed is of the essence. And that's something else that AI can facilitate. Making those calculations, analyzing that data so that resources can be distributed as quickly as possible, because typically right after a storm, there is no power, right? And people are having to go to places, particularly in rural areas, to make those connections. But with the speed of AI, having that data, having this predictability ability, right? And creating those models of what possibly would happen would then also accelerate the response.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. And this next question is just a follow-up to what Lynn painted a very good picture of what the future could be, where we have warehouses and we have all these resources readily available. But my concern, I have a very big concern, and I want to address this to Richard and Jemima. Could AI help create more sustainable systems for food distribution in underserved regions? And anyone can chime in on that too.
Yes, Len. So AI can optimize food production and reduce the waste and improve the last mile delivery to ensure the food that reaches to those who needs it. So we can create an AI driven logistics and a blockchain to prove the transparency of your food aid program. So what we do, we have a crop monitoring, and then we do the satellite imagery and other to improve the agriculture yield predictions, and we have a supply chain. See, what we are now losing is we have to maintain the carbon footprints, right? So whatever we do, we have to do that in the lesser fuel, lesser resources that we currently have. So we minimize the waste, find the shortest route, make the predicting demand on the one particular area. So the fuel is also as a concern, right? When you give that, the fuel also has to be considered. So you have to go in a very intelligent route, and there should be a fairness. So you have a blockchain and transparency towards your food aid program to distribute it fairly to prevent other fraudulent things and other things. So we have that to maintain throughout the journey.
Thank you for bringing in the aspect of blockchain. I really love that. I have seen
Yeah.
the aspect of blockchain, and Richard, maybe you can add to that before I also chime in.
So she has said everything, but just to add that AI can really help us forecast food shortage, and it can help us predict when is the best time to plant, when is the best time to harvest crops. So by this, it will help us to optimize the food distribution, cutting down and helping us to feed more people, in and by this way it would help the resources go around to everyone that needs the resources. So yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Thanks for adding that. My follow-up would be, okay, we are talking about all these kind of deployment that can happen in such a time for underserved regions. But my real concern, is there anyone right now, or is there any government, or is there specific organizations? Are there groups targeting underserved regions such that when disaster happens in such regions, they are ready for them? I am of the opinion most of the underserved regions, they are majorly neglected, and when it comes to disaster, helping them immediately or immediate response is very, very scarce. It takes some time for people to get to such people, and for me, my belief is also to quicken our response and consider this kind of group of people, or I think that if you're of the same opinion, maybe you can add something on that, or maybe let's just go to the next question. And I want to take it to you, Paula. Should AI be used to mediate conflicts or negotiate peace agreements, and how? I mean, this is a very, very timely question. We've had some couple of war, and it's still ongoing. I'm in Africa. There's some part in Africa that has war. We had one in Middle East. We had one back in Ukraine, and this is very timely. And I kind of want to hear from everyone who has something to say about that. But Paula, please chime in first.
AI can be used to it can be used, but you still have to have the human element as well. So I think what it can do is assist the human element in terms of how to negotiate the conflict or how to eliminate the conflict, in terms of just identifying some of the patterns, understanding if there's a communication issue because there's different languages barriers. It can help with eliminate some of those misunderstandings of the language. So it can be a part of it, but it's got to still have that human element to negotiate that piece.
Totally agree. Just before I want to add something to that. When Christopher was opening the panel, he said he won't paint a honey cake picture of AI. What if AI is the real cause, or is a catalyst to the conflict? Do you see that happening, Paula, or someone who has a contradictory opinion? Lynn, please tell me what you think about this.
Well, I think in terms of negotiating peace, it can be used to help us understand other people. So I use it for creating avatars, right? And because I can understand a person that is not like me and doesn't think like me, how to speak in their language. So, hey, I'm working with a extremely narcissistic politician who, when you share your heart with AI, those of you that know it's like a conversation, this is who I am, this is how I feel about this, and I need to have this conversation with this person who is this way, give them a full-on personality profile. How can I reach this person in a way that I don't lose myself, that might appeal to them in a way that is receptive? I mean, that's the way that I found it can. The language, the throat chakra is what we are here to master right now, because eventually we're all going to be just telepathic, right? But we need to master this communication thing first. And it is extremely difficult because we only have our own filter. And I'm finding AI very beneficial for me in learning how to communicate things that normally I'd get a little uppity about, or normally I'd feel very Lynn about. And I'm allowing myself to pull myself out of the equation. What is a diplomat? Diplomat speaks peace in all aspects. And so by going first to the AI and asking it the questions and getting to know a person, I feel like we can come away with a better standing of them and then use that to write our treaties and our.
Thank you for highlighting that. And I'm also seeing a
I'd like
future
to-
whereby, okay, please. Anyone who wants to chime in? Okay, who?
Sorry,
who wants
I'd like to chime in just a little bit. So you mentioned that AI might be part of the issue, and for reference, I do think it's great technology, but I do think it, in general, when AI is something that has been created mostly in the Western world, and as Chris mentioned, and as we all know, it's very male centric. It's very, like, you know, the learning models are built kind of in a silo, and you know, there have been advocates out there. There's the whole, you know, algorithmic justice league and all these things that are happening to make sure that we can get the models to be a little bit more diverse. But then also on the other side, we're approaching a world where there's going to be a water shortage, and AI is using a lot of water. And so what does that look like for communities that are constantly being neglected, for people that are constantly being neglected? And, you know, we're talking about drones. We've seen drones be used mostly in war, as we're looking at today. We're seeing AI being applied for war, but not to solve the solution. So I think there's also a lot to think about in that sense of, like, how do we make sure that we're not just using it to create the next problem, but also to prevent problems from happening.
Wow. And I just want to follow up on that, because you mentioned underrepresented areas, and you also mentioned using AI not to become the problem itself. How can AI tools amplify underrepresented voices in global humanitarian discussions? And I want you to delve into deep into this kindly.
Yeah, I think opening it up, we need a lot more open source and a lot more education on what is behind AI. Like, how is AI created? We also need to remember it's a tool that we created. So we decide what it becomes. And within that decision, who are the decision makers? Who are the stakeholders? How do we open it up to make sure that this is pretty much something that, you know, goes to all directions in all corners of the world? How do we get people who are disenfranchised to care? So how do we get more? And also, how do we stop looking at it as a save all be all, but also as a tool to support us? It's a tool to support us, but not to replace, you know, humanity, not to replace all the community, not to replace innovation. Like, it helps us innovate. It is not the innovation.
Very powerful. And I see Richard saying AI transparency. Yeah, I agree with that. Open source, transparency. And I just want to come to you, Melvin. And you mentioned, you emphasized a lot with a clean slate. And I want to bring this to you. What safeguards must be in place to prevent AI misuse in sensitive humanitarian operations?
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, before I address that, right now, and I hear it all the time, is that we are treating AI as if it's a loaded weapon, meaning this: it's not to the point to where we can hand it off to someone who doesn't know how to handle a loaded weapon. That's fine in some technologies or in some movements, because time lapse allows everyone to catch up. Unfortunately, with AI, it's moving at the speed of light. So every minute that they hold back from those who don't have access, it sets back that particular group 10 minutes. So again, going back to what you were talking about, is that we choose to educate with the barriers, or it's a clean slate. We don't just hand it off to that individual. We surround that individual and talk about, okay, what do you think about this tool in reference to creating a music label, creating a hip hop song? So they'll go through it and they understand it, but then you come back as those rails, you say, well, you ask, well, how is that affecting a person that might be a different level of melanin or in a certain neighborhood? We begin to ask them questions so they can understand the bias. So the guardrails come into play. We choose to do it a little bit differently, to where we don't call it, we don't look at it as a loaded gun. We look at it as a gift. We hand the gift to the kid, and then we surround that kid with as guardrails and begin to, as they engage, begin to ask the tough questions on how to improve the efficiency and the importance of AI. So we think the human is the guardrail who you're working with in reference to us as education. So that's how we look at it as a guardrail. Now, of course, there are guardrails needed, but
Mm.
it has to be in an environment to where I don't agree with setting up the guardrails and then handing it to the people. I believe in letting the people help establishing an environment to where we help them with the guard. We are the guardrails. So it's a different, but it
Yeah.
definitely.
I would just like to add, so as to when it comes to safeguarding to prevent AI misuse, I believe that for every AI system that is created within the humanitarian organization, the AI has to be transparent, like I said, it has to be accountable. We need to ensure that this AI system it's not biased or it's not discriminating. So and everything still boils down to data integrity. What is the source of the data used to determine the output that it generates? Because for organizations like this, they might find it very difficult to even have time to go through why is AI giving us this result. So as long as there are regulatory frameworks in place that are putting all these things in check, it's going to really go a long way. Like in the Europe, we use the GDPR, and the GDPR ensures that AI is safe enough for everyone to use. So once we have regulatory frameworks that can really support and check all these AI tools being used within that industry, it will also, go a long way in the decision making.
Yeah, I
I
totally
would like
agree.
to add
Okay.
one point, Len. I was working in a healthcare, so we handle patient data. So if the safeguard measures, I was building an AI model. So if the patient's medical data and sensitive data is not properly safeguarded, right, then it is a very big mess. So in healthcare, in banking, that safeguard is very sensitive. So we need to make sure the AI model do a fair decision. So it should not be biased. It should not be any data privacy issues. So that is very important when it's respect to healthcare and banking perspective.
I would love
Thank you,
to
Jim.
throw in, I know we are pressed for time, but
Yes.
as someone who uses it for personal and for my work, I've noticed the same things that you're all saying where there is a bias because I'm from Baltimore. And so I do try to import some of that culture into everything that I do. And so I'll say, use Baltimore slang or be mindful that I am from this area, that this is how I grew up. Because like I said, I do try to be as specific as possible. And there are many times where I have to say, hey, chat, because I talk to chat like we're friends, because we are. I'm like, hey, chat, you missed the mark on that real bad. And then I tell them why. And then it gives me a way better response. And I think a lot of times people use AI like Google. And Google, I think, has a more robust system to give you options and choices, but not things that are personal to you. But when we think about using AI, we have to be mindful that they are pulling from so many various things, and sometimes those things are off. Sometimes those things are not culturally sensitive or mindful of the economic landscape or the social things that are going on in the world. And so when I use AI personally, I am as specific as possible, which means, does AI always save me time? No, it doesn't. Sometimes the things that I put in are paragraphs long, but that is how I'm able to make sure that I am working in conjunction with AI and it's understanding where I'm coming from. Thank you for letting me throw that in there.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And our time is running out. And Paula, briefly, close us off with telling us how could AI work and eliminate systematic corruption in global aid programs? And then we close us off.
Well, we mentioned blockchain, so that's one way of being able to track using blockchain. Using AI to track in different ways, like cross-referencing different systems, real-time patterns, analyzing different patterns to help eliminate some of that corruption, and just understand, just again, monitoring if there's any anomalies in terms of in what's going on with whatever that corruption may be throughout the global, be able to identify and then communicate that in real time.
Thank you so much. We could talk and discuss this for longer, but our time is up. I really appreciate your contributions, and I ask you, dear audience, please connect with these panelists. I believe each and every one of them had something very, very impactful for you. And remember to share this podcast. Thank you so much, Gather, as well, for this panel. Over to you, GatherVerse team. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.